Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new 2022 Honda Civic. Thank you to Honda West of Calgary, Alberta for letting us borrow this vehicle. If you're interested in this or anything else on their lot, the link to their website is right below that like button. Alright, so let's start with what is underneath the hood, like always, and this generation of Civic is going to have the exact same engine options as the previous generation. So they've been updated as well. We're in the touring trim, so this is going to have the 1.5 liter turbo engine, and if you get anything below that, you're going to have the 2 liter naturally aspirated engine, which, once again, it's reliable. It's a mainstream compact car. Do you really need all that power? No, the turbo engine gets around fairly quick, even though it has less power than most people would consider enough. It still gets around the city, gets you to merging speeds easily, highway speeds. I have no issues with it driving around, but I'll throw the specs up of the new engine here right now just so you can see. And if you really want to know in detail, make sure you pause that. The power for this engine is 180 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. And if you want that 2 liter, by the way, if you go with a non-touring model, you're going to get 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque, which, yes, it's less, but you can test drive it and see what you like more. But let's keep moving. Okay, so moving on to the exterior. Now, a lot of people have said this before, and I'll say it as well. It does look similar to the Accord. It's almost like it's the Accord's younger, 1 minute late twin brother, if you know what I mean. The headlights are a complete LED setup, and they're also standard. So if you get an LX trim, a base trim, you'll still get LED headlights, which is awesome to see. You'll also get LED fog lights on the touring trim, which we have. The main Honda sensing safety equipment is basically standard in all trims as well. And the front end overall has a very simplistic and clean look. In my opinion, the main grille by the badge it's got a grow on me. That little downward facing portion is a little odd right now, but I'm sure it'll grow on me. But you never know when they're going to end up doing a facelift on this a few years later, and they might change that to be an actual grille. So, but right now, I think the overall front end is very stylish. It's very just simple, and it doesn't need to be something crazy. It's a mainstream compact car, which is gonna sell like crazy, I believe. But and because of that, Honda, I think, played it a little bit safe. But in this case, it worked out pretty well. Now the side view, like everything else that Honda and Acura has been doing, they've kind of pushed that cabin back a little bit further and made it look like it's got rear-wheel drive proportions to it. Obviously, it's a front-wheel drive vehicle, but with the way the cabin is and the elongated hood, I think it has a very nice side profile as well. We have 18s on our 235 series tires on the touring trim. Anything else, if you get anything below that, not including the Sport, you're going to get 16-inch wheels. The base is going to have 16-inch steel wheels, but the Sport will have similar 18-inch wheels. They're just, I think, in a black tone. But everything else is basically pretty similar. So it's kind of a bummer that you still get steel wheels on the base trim in 2022 model year car, but it is what it is. Now the rear is probably the most talked about portion, and a lot of people seem to really love or they really hate the rear taillight design. Some people think it's boring, some people love it. It just depends on what your personal preference is. We get taillights that look like something you'd probably see on a Volkswagen product, like a Jetta, or maybe some thicker Audi A4 taillights. They do look pretty nice to me, I'm not gonna lie. They're a combination LED setup. The Sport trim is the only way you'll see a visible exhaust on the Civic. Other than that, the rear looks pretty decent in my opinion. Now the prototype images, Honda actually showed these rear exhaust oval kind of tips that were built into the rear bumper. I really like that. I hope Honda either refreshes with that or they use that rear bumper on a SI trim or something like that, because that was a beautiful design. But once again, the rear end continues that area of just simplicity, modern but simple design. Let's see how much cargo area we have. Now the Touring is the only trim that gives you an assisted trunk opener. So whenever you press the trunk release button on your key fob, it'll open it fully, and that's really about it. It doesn't close fully because obviously we're not anywhere near in that class, but it's pretty cool how that opens up for you. Any other trim you do select will not have that, but the Touring does, so it's always nice to have if you have your hands full. Once open, you'll get just under 15 cubic feet of space. Pretty small, but I'm assuming most folks that get Civics don't usually have too much to lug around other than your everyday items, and most people already know that as well when they get a Civic, that it's not meant to sleep in like the SUVs I review. All right, now jumping into the interior, and I gotta say, just first impressions, huge upgrade over the previous generation. It looks way nicer, more simple, more elegant, futuristic. The technology has been upgraded, and I really enjoy this over the previous generation any day of the week. I think Honda did a great job with this interior. Let's start with the basics. Every Civic gets an acoustic front windshield, and that should help with reducing interior noise whenever you're driving, but we'll see how that is on our test drive. The Touring gives you leather-trimmed seating surfaces, while the other trims get either a cloth or a cloth and leather combination if you get the Sport. Now, the Touring also gives you a 8-way power seat for the driver's side, and the manual, I believe, is the passenger seat is a 4-way manual adjusting seat. You'll get a leather-wrapped heated steering wheel on every trim except for the base. Heated seats are also standard, and the Touring also gives you rear heated seats. The HVAC controls look like they've been copied and pasted right from an Accord, and I think that is not a bad thing at all. I love how simple and easy it is to use. The air flows through this new honeycomb vent in this metal kind of finish. I'm not sure if it's real metal, but it looks really nice and unique. The buttons feel really premium whenever you click them. The knobs feel great in the hands. Below that, we have your opening for the wireless charger and a couple of USBs above that, and a regular 12 volts. Moving down lower, you get this shifter, which I believe I've seen on another Honda product before. Maybe it might be an older one, but hey, you know what? It's better than any dial or any crazy knob that you can have. So I like the shifter. It feels good. And below that, if you go down south, you'll see some drive mode selectors. More simple and clean layout than the previous generation. I think it's not a bad thing at all. Right beside the switches here, you're going to have your cup holders, 2-tier, one higher, one lower for your different drinks. I like the material they used. It's not glossy black, and that's all I really care about. You're not going to see that much dust or fingerprints in this area. Unlike the last gen, it had gloss black around the shifters. So that is awesome. And if you move further down south, you're going to have a pretty decent sized armrest. It's stitched as well. It looks really nice. It feels nice and soft as well. If you open it up, you're going to have a decent sized storage, but I would probably say that it is smaller than the previous generation Honda Civic center console, but you have your little tray as well for your coins, and it's decently deep. So you know what? I'm pretty sure it's usable for a lot of people. So moving on to the new tech that Honda added. Let's start with the 10.2-inch digital display. Only the Touring will get that, unfortunately. Every other trim, I believe it's going to be full analogs or half analog. I forgot what it was, but the Touring does get a full digital display, and it's beautiful to see. It lights up whenever you press your brakes, whenever your signal's on. It also has a little mini Civic in there as well. It's not color coordinated, though, unfortunately, but you can change the layout of the gauges. You can have old traditional looking gauges if you want, or you can have these minimal looking designs on the side with bars, and we all like bars because we're all fans of hip-hop here. And other than that, the other new tech that we get here is the infotainment display. So the center infotainment is going to be an all-new 9-inch color touchscreen. If you get anything below the Touring, you're going to get a 7-inch. We finally have the updated software. It's not the Honda Link from the previous generation Civic, thank God. We have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that is standard, and the Touring also gives you wireless capabilities. The backup camera seems like it's been updated a little bit and also has the typical 3 different views, but you know, I gotta keep on saying it. I think it still could be better. The quality is kind of not the best, but yeah, you have a backup camera at least. Also on the Touring trim, which is new, you're gonna get a pretty decent sounding Bose branded 12-speaker premium audio system. So, and that system does sound pretty good. I played some music with different beats and different bass levels, and it sounded pretty rich and full. So I'm really enjoying that. And obviously we're gonna get a wireless charger on here as well. So, you know, that's great stuff. Now jumping into the second row, we get a pretty decent space. You know, I'm gonna set the front seat where I would be comfortable sitting in. I'm gonna jump behind this driver's seat, and I have decent leg room and headroom as well, especially since it feels like it's been a little bit increased in terms of space on the interior here, especially in the back. One thing a lot of people have mentioned are the lack of rear air vents, and I'm sad to report I thought we were gonna get rear air vents here because we're Canadians and we're special apparently, but we never got them. But we do have rear heated seats, which I mentioned earlier as well, so that is awesome to see. I know it gets cold here, especially in some cities, and it's always nice to have those as well, especially if you're driving around with kids or friends or whoever you drive around with. So below that, we also have some USBs for some connectivity, and that's kind of it. You know, the seating is comfortable. The perforations are in the middle where your butt will be and your back, so it's nice that you have some airflow through that. You can pull down the center console for just an extra armrest if no one's sitting in that middle row. So you know, it's not bad at all. I think it's a good layout here. And if you're new, by the way, thanks for watching. First of all, I am 6'1", so hopefully this helps you get an idea of how much rear space I have, and I can be, you know, pretty comfortable back here for decent drives. So hey, my seal of approval, if that means anything. Lastly, all we have left to do is our drive now, so let's get going. All right, so you know that we usually start our driving with a quick acceleration test. Now this doesn't have a whole ton of power, so I'm not expecting to be kind of blown away. Like I said before, you can basically get to, you know, speed limits pretty quick, you know, in a pretty quick duration. Let me put it down where I can't see. In pretty quick durations. So I would say, you know, I'm not hoping to be, you know, super impressed by here. We have a CVT. I still put it in sport mode. We'll see what it does. It's just, you know, one thing I gotta say though, I'll say this on the driving portion actually. Okay. Are you ready, everybody? Jimmy, you're ready? You're not ready. I'm gonna go anyways. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it wasn't bad. Obviously, it took a little while to get to our special speed that we like to get to, and you know, you probably heard the interior noise. It can be a little bit of a louder engine, but honestly, I really don't think most people are going to be doing anything with this other than just normal day-to-day commutes. So let me put it back into normal driving mode. And one thing I noticed immediately when I first stepped into the new Civic here was the amount of visibility. The A-pillars are really thin, and because of that, you have so much of a open view. It's like your eyes, you have like a wide angle lens in your eyes, and you can see the front so clearly, like lots of ways to look, and honestly, I think it's awesome. Even your blind spots, you know, you have your Honda sensing stuff that shows your blind spot indicators, but if you don't have that though, and you just look over, it's not too bad. The rear kind of area sits a little bit higher, so it could be a little bit troubling, but obviously this is a car, and most other cars aren't going to be that much lower for you to not be able to see them, so that's awesome. And you probably hear that a little bit of driving noise from the exterior coming into the inside. It just is what it is with that. You know, we're in a mainstream compact sedan, and the class, really, it's going to be pretty similar in terms of noise level. But other than that, it's just easy to maneuver. It feels very smooth. The suspension, the way it bounces up and down, you know, I'm not feeling like I'm getting thrown all over the place. It absorbs the shocks pretty well. And it even has paddle shifters. So to shift through your millions of gears in your CVT. So you could always put it into sport mode over here and then start with that. And it kind of mimics that. Let me put it downshift a little bit. And you know, it doesn't do too bad of a job, to be honest with you. It makes it seem like it's an actual transmission with gears and not a CVT. But like, how much more do we have to really talk about this? You know, the Civic's been one of the best-selling passenger cars, just in general. And in Canada, I think it's been the #1 selling passenger car for like over like 15 years in a row, something crazy. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But you know, and I'm not going to be surprised if I see this one just all over the roads, because for the value, you know, for the price that you pay, you get tons of value. Like this touring trim especially, even if you don't get the touring, right? Even if you get a you know, an EX, you know, which is probably going to be the most popular, I don't think it's going to be, you know, a far idea to say that it's going to sell like crazy. It's just, the tech is great, the technology is great, the interior feels more roomy as well. I like how the center console also kind of is more raised up, so it feels like you have a little cozy area that you're sitting in, because I know vehicles that are usually cheaper and on the market, their center console is usually pretty low. So when you're sitting down, the center console, where you shift your gears, it's like right beside your leg. But for this, it kind of raises up, and you have like a a nice little cozy area. So, and that usually is in a lot of more premium vehicles as well. That kind of feel. So in terms of driving, like it's super smooth. Handling is great. Fuel economy is insane. I hope you paused those numbers for the engine specs. If you didn't, definitely go back and check that out, because the fuel economy, when I first looked it up, for at least the turbo engine, I was blown away. I was like, wow, that's really good. And other than that, it drives great. It's not going to be your performance version, but hey, for those of you that want performance, just wait until that Civic Si comes out, and wait until that Civic Type R comes out, because I think you'll be blown away. And yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up there. That's all I got to say for the driving dynamics. Feels good in the hands. It's nice and agile. It's small enough to drive around the city and park wherever you want. And that's all I got. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, you know exactly what to do. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.